Your bug-out bag just failed its first real test. The water filter clogged after 1 week. Creek sediment the manufacturer never tested against. Your backup purification tablets expired 16 months ago. The lithium battery bank you stored for 3 years, dead from calendar degradation. Cells aged to nothing sitting in your closet. Your ferro rod won't spark. Everything's damp, and you never practiced wet conditions. The emergency blanket tore when you tried wrapping it. Your tactical flashlight, the LED, died. Not the batteries, the emitter itself. The paracord, UV-degraded and snaps under load. You spent $800 building this kit from YouTube's top 50 lists. Every item rated 5 stars. All designed to die exactly when you need it. The survival industry sold you planned obsolescence wrapped in tactical nylon. Here's what actually belongs in your bag. 50 items that survive storage, abuse, and the conditions that kill everything else. Every prepper I've met has the same bug-out bag. They bought it from the same lists. Amazon bestsellers, YouTube top 10s, Reddit threads with 3,000 upvotes, and every single item in that bag has a built-in death sentence. They don't know it yet, but they will. Let's go through this methodically. Power. You've got lithium batteries. Lightweight, high energy density. Perfect on paper. Except lithium cells degrade just sitting in storage. It's called calendar aging. The electrolyte breaks down, capacity fades. After 5 years on a shelf, you've lost 20 to 30%. After 10 years, you're looking at a brick. Your alkaline backups, they're worse. They leak. The zinc casing corrodes. Potassium hydroxide oozes out and eats the terminals in your flashlight. Your solar panels, they're feeding a battery bank that's been committing chemical suicide since the day you installed it. Water. The Sawyer Mini everyone recommends. It clogs permanently after filtering sediment-heavy water. The specs say 100,000 gallons. That's a lie. Real-world creek water with silt and biofilm. You're looking at 10,000 gallons maximum before the hollow fiber membranes choke. Life Straw has the same problem. Plus, if it freezes once, the internal membranes crack. You can't see it, but water flows right past the cracks and you're drinking giardia. Chemical tablets expire. Iodine degrades with heat and humidity. The 25-year shelf life assumes climate control you're not providing. Fire. Ferro rods need dry tinder and technique. In wet conditions, you're scraping magnesium into paste. Butane lighters stop working below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The fuel won't vaporize. Waterproof matches give you 20 strikes if you're lucky, then you're rubbing sticks together. Shelter. Mylar emergency blankets tear if you look at them wrong. One snag on a branch and you're holding metallicized confetti. Tarps UV degrade in direct sunlight. 2 years and the fabric becomes brittle. Tent poles. The aluminum joints crack under repeated stress. Communications. Those FRS radios with the 5-star ratings, they're rated for 2 miles. That's line of sight in perfect conditions. Put a hill between you and the other radio and you're done. The batteries die, the antennas snap. Notice a theme? Everything expires, breaks, or depends on conditions being perfect. Your bug-out bag isn't a survival system. It's a graveyard of planned obsolescence waiting to fail. That's not accidental. It's profitable. But here's the thing. For every piece of disposable garbage they sell you, there's a buried alternative that works permanently. Let's start with power, because if you can't generate and store energy indefinitely, everything else is temporary. So what actually stores power permanently? The answer was patented in 1901 by Thomas Edison. And the modern energy industry has spent the last century pretending it doesn't exist. The nickel-iron battery. The Edison cell. It's not just better, it's categorically different. Here's why this battery is chemically immortal. The electrolyte is potassium hydroxide. It's alkaline. And here's the critical part. It doesn't participate in the chemical reaction. It doesn't get consumed. It doesn't degrade. It just sits there acting as an ionic conductor, while the actual reaction happens between nickel hydroxide and iron. When you discharge, nickel gets reduced and iron gets oxidized. When you charge, the process reverses. The potassium hydroxide just watches. It doesn't age. This means you can charge and discharge this battery thousands of times without killing it. Edison's original cells from the early 1900s, some of them still work. We're not talking about marketing claims. We're talking about batteries that have been cycling for over a century and still hold a charge. You can abuse these batteries in ways that would murder any other chemistry. Overcharge it. The excess energy bubbles off as hydrogen and oxygen. No fire, no explosion. It vents and forgives you. Drain it completely to 0 volts and leave it for months. Lithium would be dead. Lead acid would be sulfated into a paperweight. The nickel-iron cell, you just recharge it. Full capacity returns. Freeze it solid. The potassium hydroxide doesn't expand like water does. The case doesn't crack. Thaw it out and it works. You can leave it sitting in storage for 40 years. Come back during the collapse, drain the old electrolyte, rinse the cells with distilled water, pour in fresh potassium hydroxide, and you're back to near 100% capacity. Your children could inherit this battery. Your grandchildren could use it. This is technology that outlives you. So why isn't this powering every off-grid system in America? 2 reasons. Weight. Nickel and iron are heavy elements. For the same energy storage, you're looking at 2 to 3 times the weight of lithium. If you're building a portable system, that's a problem. But if your battery bank is sitting in a shed attached to solar panels, weight doesn't matter. Longevity does. The real reason is business model suicide. A battery that lasts a century is a catastrophe for a company that needs to sell you a new one every 5 years. If you buy once and you're done for life, you're no longer a customer. You solved your problem permanently. And in an economy built on recurring revenue, a permanent solution is a threat. But you can still get these batteries. Small manufacturers make them. China, Eastern Europe. They're not at Home Depot. But they exist. And they will outlast every other battery in your stockpile by a factor of 10. Water kills you in 3 days. Your Sawyer Mini clogs permanently after 10,000 gallons. That's 27 gallons a day for a year. Then it's a paperweight. The label says 100,000 gallons, but that's in a lab with distilled water. Real creek water with silt, biofilm, and organic debris. You're lucky to hit 10,000 before the hollow fiber membranes choke, and no amount of backflushing will fix it. Life Straw has the same problem. Hollow fibers are microscopic tubes. Water flows through, particles get trapped. But once those tubes clog, they're done. You can't clean them, you can't see inside them, and if the filter freezes once, the water inside expands and cracks the fibers internally. The filter still looks fine. Water still flows, but it's flowing past the cracks. You're drinking Giardia, and you won't know for 72 hours. Chemical tablets are your backup. Iodine or chlorine dioxide. They expire. The active compounds degrade with heat and humidity. That 25-year shelf life assumes storage at 68 degrees Fahrenheit in a sealed container. You kept them in your truck. They're dead. And even when they work, they require wait times, taste like a swimming pool, and don't remove heavy metals or chemical contaminants. So what actually filters water permanently? Ceramic candle filters. British Birkefeld, Doulton, Katadyn. They've been around since the 1800s. The filtration element is diatomaceous earth ceramic with pores between 0.2 and 0.5 microns. That's small enough to block bacteria, protozoa, and sediment. It's physical filtration. No membranes, no chemicals. Just ceramic with microscopic holes. Here's the magic. When the flow rate slows down because the outer layer gets fouled, you pull the candle out, scrub it with a Scotch-Brite pad or fine sandpaper, remove a few microns of ceramic, and the flow rate comes back. You can do this hundreds of times. A single candle lasts 10 to 20 years with regular cleaning. Some filters from the 1950s are still working in rural parts of the UK. You can pass these down. They're gravity-fed. No pumping. No batteries. You hang one container above another. Water flows downhill. Physics does the work. Add an activated carbon core and you remove chemicals and heavy metals too. Why aren't these in every bug-out bag? Same reason as always. A $200 filter system that lasts 20 years doesn't generate repeat customers. A $30 Sawyer that dies in a year does. You buy it again and again. The preparedness industry optimized for recurring revenue, not clean water. You've got power, you've got water, but if you can't start a fire when everything's wet, if you can't generate heat, you'll freeze before you get to use either one. And the fire-starting gear in your pack right now? It's designed to fail in exactly the conditions you'll face. Fire is survival priority number 1. Warmth, water purification, signaling, morale. You need to be able to start a fire in any conditions, and the gear in your bag fails predictably. Ferro rods. Everyone carries one. Magnesium alloy rod, steel scraper. You scrape the rod, it creates sparks at 3,000 degrees. Sounds foolproof. It's not. You need dry tinder. You need technique. You need both hands steady and a pile of material fine enough to catch from a spark. In wet conditions, when your hands are numb and everything's damp, you're scraping metal into paste and getting nothing. Butane lighters stop working below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The fuel won't vaporize in the cold. Your Bic lighter that worked perfectly in summer becomes a brick in winter. Zippo-style lighters use liquid fuel that evaporates over time. Leave it in your bag for 6 months and the wick is dry. Waterproof matches give you 20 strikes. Then you're rubbing sticks. Here's what actually works. Permanent match. Metal housing with a replaceable wick soaked in fuel and a flint striker built into the cap. You strike it like a match. The wick ignites, you light your tinder. When the wick wears out after a few thousand strikes, you replace it for 50 cents. When the flint dulls, you replace that too. The housing lasts indefinitely. Works in wind, rain, cold, no degradation. You won't see these advertised because a permanent match kills the disposable lighter market. Bic sells you a lighter for $2. You use it up. You buy another one. Repeat forever. A $15 permanent match eliminates that revenue stream. Magnesium fire starter. Military uses these. Solid magnesium block with a ferro rod striker attached. You shave magnesium into a pile with a knife. Pile needs to be about the size of a quarter. Then you strike the ferro rod into the pile. Magnesium ignites at 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit and burns for 30 seconds. That's hot enough to light wet wood. The block weighs 2 ounces and lasts hundreds of fires. Never expires. Never degrades. Civilian market pushes ferro rods alone because they require skill and practice. Most people fail with them, so they buy backup lighters. And backup matches. The magnesium block works the first time, every time. But it's not in the bug-out bag lists. Fat wood. Resinous pine heartwood. When a pine tree dies, resin concentrates in the stump and roots. It's called terpene. Highly flammable. You can shave it damp, and it'll ignite from a spark. Burns hot, self-sustaining. You harvest it from dead pine stumps for free, or buy 10 pounds for $20 and it lasts years. Infinite shelf life. The resin doesn't degrade. Notice the pattern. Permanent match lasts forever. Magnesium block lasts forever. Fat wood is free. But your bug-out bag has disposable Bic lighters and ferro rods that require perfect conditions. That's not accidental. You've got power, water, and fire solved permanently. But if you can't stay warm, if you can't trap your body heat, you'll freeze before you get to use any of it. And the insulation they sell you? It's designed to fail just like everything else. Hypothermia kills in hours. You need insulation. The outdoor industry has convinced you that warmth equals bulk. It doesn't. Warmth equals trapping air. And they're selling you materials that fail predictably. Synthetic puffy jackets lose loft after 3 seasons of use. The polyester fibers compress, the air pockets collapse, and the insulation stops working. UV radiation degrades the fabric. Leave your jacket in the sun, and the fibers break down at the molecular level. 5 years, and it's trash. Down feathers. Lightweight, compressible, warm when dry. When wet, they clump into useless lumps. The feathers stick together, the air pockets disappear, and you're wearing a cold, wet blanket that actively pulls heat from your body. Down also degrades over time. The natural oils in the feathers dry out. After 5 years, the down becomes brittle and loses its loft permanently. Fleece pills and stretches. The fabric loses its structure. Air pockets get larger, convection increases, warmth decreases. Here's what actually works. Silica aerogel. It's 99.8% air trapped in a nanoporous silica structure. The pores are so small that air molecules can't flow freely. Convection stops at the molecular level. 3 millimeters of aerogel insulates as well as 3 centimeters of down. It doesn't compress, it doesn't wet out, it doesn't degrade. NASA used this on the Mars rovers. Temperature swings from -120 Celsius to +20. The aerogel insulation kept the electronics functional. It's available now in flexible blankets. Pyrogel and Cryogel are the brand names. You can buy jackets with aerogel insulation. Oros Apparel makes them. $200 to $400 for a jacket that will outlast a $400 down parka by 10 years minimum. Why isn't this in every outdoor store? Because a jacket that lasts 20 years kills the seasonal apparel market. The industry needs you buying a new coat every 3 to 5 years. Aerogel breaks that cycle. Wool, specifically merino. It insulates when wet. Retains 80% of its warmth even soaked. Doesn't hold odor. Naturally fire-resistant. Lasts decades with basic care. Military wool blankets from World War II, the 1940s. Some of them are still functional today. 80 years old, and they work. The modern market pushes synthetic base layers, petroleum-based fibers that degrade in 2 years. They cost less up front, but you replace them constantly. Wool costs more once. Then it's done. You're out of the market. Aerogel jackets exist. Raw aerogel blankets are orderable. Surplus military wool is still circulating. You can get all of this right now. 5 categories down. Power, water, fire, insulation. All solved with technology that lasts forever. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. This isn't about gear anymore. This is about a system that needs you dependent. Let's step back. We've covered 5 categories. Every single one follows the same pattern. Marketed gear dies in 1 to 5 years. Buried alternatives last decades to centuries. The price difference isn't total cost. It's upfront cost versus lifetime cost, and the survival industry has optimized for the model that keeps you buying. The survival industry isn't selling you independence. They're selling you a subscription to dependence disguised as preparedness. Here's the business model. Lithium batteries die in 5 years. You buy replacements. Recurring revenue. Sawyer filters clog in 1 year. You buy new ones. Recurring revenue. Ferro rods wear out. You buy backups. Recurring revenue. Synthetic jackets degrade in 3 seasons. You upgrade. Recurring revenue. This pattern applies to everything. Knives made from cheap steel rust and need replacing. First aid supplies expire on schedule. Freeze-dried food requires rotation. Communications gear runs on batteries and planned obsolescence. Every category is built the same way. A company that sells you one knife that lasts forever loses you as a customer. A company that sells you a knife that needs replacing every 5 years keeps you in the cycle. You're not buying solutions, you're renting survival. This isn't conspiracy, it's economics. Markets optimize for recurring revenue, not customer satisfaction. Planned obsolescence is a business strategy, not an accident. The entire preparedness industry is designed around gear that expires so you come back. Why do all the top 50 essentials lists recommend the same brands? Affiliate marketing, brand partnerships, algorithmic SEO. The gear that gets promoted is the gear that generates ongoing sales, not the gear that works permanently. Permanent solutions don't rank well because they don't generate clicks and commissions every year. You understand the pattern now. Every marketed solution has an expiration date. Every buried solution lasts indefinitely, and the gap between them is pure profit extracted from your fear. So here's what you actually need in your bug-out bag. Not 50 disposable items, the buried alternatives across every category and where to find them before the stores close. Here are the final categories. Moving fast because the pattern is clear. For each one, what fails, what works forever, where to buy it. First aid. Prepackaged kits from Amazon have supplies that expire and cheap tourniquets that break under load. What works? Israeli bandages with 20-year shelf life. Cat tourniquets, military grade. Quick clot combat gauze, hemostatic and stable. Suture kits with stainless steel instruments that last indefinitely. Where to buy? North American Rescue, Chinook Medical, not Amazon. Counterfeits kill people. Navigation. Phone GPS dies when batteries die or satellites go offline. Electronic compasses need batteries. What works? Tritium lensatic compass. Self-illuminating, no batteries, lasts 10+ years. The tritium vials glow for decades. Paper topographic maps treated with waterproofing spray. Where to buy? Kamenga, the military contractor. USGS map store for topo maps. Tools. Multi-tools with pot metal blades bend and break. Folding saws bind and fail. What works? Silky Gomboy saw. Japanese carbon steel with replaceable blade. Mora companion knife. Full tang carbon steel, $20. Lasts decades with basic maintenance. Bachko Laplander saw for larger cuts. Where to buy? Direct from manufacturers. Avoid Amazon resellers because counterfeits flood the market. Food. Freeze-dried number 10 cans are expensive, and the 25-year shelf life is marketing fiction. Oxygen absorbers fail, food oxidizes, you're eating cardboard. What works? White rice, dried beans, and salt stored in Mylar bags with fresh oxygen absorbers. 50-year shelf life if stored properly. Whole grains you can sprout for nutrition. Where to buy? LDS church canneries, open to the public. Bulk food suppliers, that's the gear. But gear is just metal and fabric. What actually keeps you alive is understanding the system that's designed to keep you buying, not surviving. Here's what it comes down to. This isn't a list of 50 items you need to buy. It's a framework for recognizing when you're being sold dependence and knowing what actually works. True preparedness isn't about hoarding disposable gear from Amazon bestseller lists. It's about understanding why technology works. What makes it robust? What makes it permanent? It's knowing the difference between a solution that expires on schedule and one that outlasts you. The pattern is consistent across every category. Marketed solution dies in 1 to 5 years, generates recurring revenue, keeps you dependent. Buried solution lasts decades to centuries, costs more upfront, makes you independent. The gap between them is profit extracted from engineered obsolescence. The modern economy isn't built on solving problems. It's built on managing problems, selling temporary relief that requires renewal. The survival industry is just one example. Same pattern exists in energy storage, shelter systems, communications, food preservation, medical supplies. Everything optimized for subscription dependence. But here's the critical point. You can buy all of this buried technology right now. None of it is illegal. None of it is restricted. It's just hidden. Buried behind silence. Buried behind 1,000 inferior products, screaming for your attention with affiliate links and 5-star reviews and algorithmic promotion. Nickel-iron batteries that last a century. Ceramic filters you can scrub and reuse for decades. Permanent matches and magnesium blocks, aerogel insulation and military-grade wool, tritium compasses and carbon steel tools. All of it exists, all of it available. A person with permanent solutions across every survival category is a person the system can't control. You're not generating recurring revenue. You're not dependent on supply chains. You're not waiting for the next product cycle. Stay curious. Stay independent. Physics doesn't take bribes, and neither should you.